The streets aren't just talking, fam. They are absolutely screaming. Stop scrolling. Put your phone on Do Not Disturb and lock the door, because what you are about to hear is going to shatter everything you thought you knew about loyalty in the industry. For months, the internet has been spiraling into a toxic black hole of speculation. We've seen the subliminal tweets, we've dissected the cryptic Instagram stories, and we've watched the fan bases go to war over one burning question. Did Lil Durk actually cross the line with Asian Doll? The rumors were bad enough, painting a picture of ultimate betrayal within the OTF inner circle, but the silence from the queen of the trenches herself, India Royale, was louder than a stadium concert. Everyone thought she was taking the high road. And everyone thought she was going to let the blogs spin their narratives while she stacked her bread in peace. But last night, the high road crumbled. At 3:00 a.m., while the rest of the world was sleeping, Twitter absolutely melted down. A source close to the situation leaked that India didn't just speak, she supposedly dropped a nuclear bomb on the entire situation, allegedly claiming that the betrayal goes deeper than a hookup. It's a full-blown setup involving leaked locations, secret burners, and a wiretap no one saw coming. The timeline is in shambles. The Voice is trending alongside the betrayal, and fans are picking sides in a war that threatens to tear the Chicago drill scene apart from the inside out. Before we dive into this chaotic saga, please remember that this story is a dramatic mix of real-world rumors, unverified street gossip, and fictionalized scenes created purely for entertainment purposes. We are taking you behind the curtain of the rumors, but take it with a grain of salt. You think you know the players involved? You think you understand the code they live by, but trust me when I say the internet detectives missed the biggest clue of all. India is finally ready to air it out, and she's not sparing anyone's feelings. Here's what really happened. It felt like the calm before the storm in the heart of Atlanta, but inside India Royale's penthouse, the air was thick enough to choke on. The city lights flickered below like a million watching eyes, unaware that the queen of the trenches was pacing her marble floors, her phone buzzing incessantly on the kitchen island. Every vibration was a notification, a tag, a DM from a fan claiming they saw something, heard something, or knew something that could shatter her world. It had been 3 weeks since the first whisper hit the blogs. 3 weeks since a blurry photo surfaced of a man resembling Lil Durk leaving a studio session in Miami at 4:40 a.m. with a silhouette that looked suspiciously like Asian Doll slipping into the back of an SUV just moments later. The internet called it a coincidence. The die-hard OTF fans called it a reach. But India, she called it intuition. She knew the game better than anyone. She knew that in this lifestyle there are no coincidences, only calculated moves on a chessboard where the pawns are people, and the king is always protecting himself. She picked up the phone, the screen lighting up her face in the dim room. A text from a mutual friend simply read, "They playing in your face, sis. Check your DMs." Her heart hammered against her ribs, a frantic rhythm that matched the chaos unfolding online. The notification was a screen recording sent from a burner account. It was grainy, audio distorted, clearly recorded in a crowded room, maybe a VIP section or a backstage green room. The voice was muffled, but the cadence was unmistakable. It sounded like Asian Doll, laughing, the kind of laugh that echoes when you think you've got away with something. "Man, folks don't know nothing," the voice alleged, the words slurring slightly. "She thinks she got the ring, but who got the ear? You feel me? It's chess, not checkers." The clip cut off abruptly, leaving only the static hiss of the recording and the deafening silence of the penthouse. India felt a cold flush spread through her veins. It wasn't just the words, it was the audacity, the disrespect. For years, she had stood beside Durk through the trenches, through the Rico scares, through the losses that would break a normal person. She had built a brand on loyalty, on being the one solid thing in a world of shifting sands. And now, the streets were whispering that the very foundation she stood on was cracking. She didn't cry. Tears were for people who were surprised. India Royale wasn't surprised. She was calculating. She dialed a number she hadn't used in months, her fingers moving with the precision of a woman on a mission. The line rang once, twice, 3 times before a deep, gravelly voice answered. "I didn't think you'd call," the voice said. It was a close associate of the OTF camp, someone who saw everything but said nothing, until now. "Tell me it's fake," India demanded, her voice steady but laced with a dangerous edge. "Tell me the blogs are lying." The pause on the other end was deafening. "I can't do that, India," he whispered, the sound of traffic in the background suggesting he was on the move. But it's worse than you think. It ain't just about Asian, it's about who set the play. While India was unraveling the threads of betrayal in Atlanta, the internet was ablaze with theories. Twitter detectives were working overtime, dissecting lyrics from unreleased tracks and analyzing body language in old interviews. A clip from a 2021 Instagram Live resurfaced, showing Asian Doll praising Durk's flow, and suddenly everyone was an expert on hidden meanings. "Look at her eyes," one user tweeted. The post garnering 20,000 likes in an hour. She's been plotting on the throne since day one. India better watch her six. The narrative was spinning out of control. It wasn't just a rumor anymore. It was a saga. The streets were saying that Asian Doll wasn't just casually linking with Durk. Allegedly, sources were claiming she was trying to leverage a feature into a spot in the inner circle, using past connections and shared history to wedge herself between the power couple. And Durk, he was radio silent. No tweets, no stories, no subliminals. His silence was being interpreted in 1,000 different ways. Was it guilt? Was it strategy? Or was he simply oblivious to the firestorm that was about to consume his personal life? A source from a popular hip-hop blog claimed that Durk's management was in crisis mode, frantically trying to scrub the internet of the blurry Miami photos, but the damage was done. The seed of doubt had been planted, and it was growing into a twisted vine of jealousy and deceit. Flashback to 2 days prior, inside a dimly lit recording studio in South Loop, Chicago. The air was thick with smoke and tension. Allegedly, Asian Doll was in the booth, laying down a verse for a track that was supposed to be a simple remix, but according to an engineer who wished to remain anonymous, the energy shifted when Durk walked in. Witnesses claimed the vibe wasn't hostile, it was familiar, too familiar. They weren't acting like colleagues, they were acting like old friends with unfinished business. "You still got that same fire," Durk allegedly said, leaning against the mixing board, his eyes hidden behind dark shades. Asian Doll laughed. That same laugh from the leaked audio. "I never lost it," smirk. "Just had to remind folks who really run this drill shut." The engineer claimed the conversation dipped into hushed tones, words exchanged that weren't meant for the microphone. Phrases like "she don't understand the life" and "loyalty gets complicated" were allegedly tossed around. Was it innocent banter, or was it the sound of boundaries being crossed? The engineer didn't stick around to find out, packing up his gear as soon as the session ended, but he knew one thing for sure: the energy in that room was a ticking time bomb. Back in the present, India's phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't a leak. It was a direct message from a verified account, a rival rapper from Chicago who had been waiting for the OTF empire to show a crack in the armor. The message was short, brutal, and calculated to cause maximum damage. Check the timestamps on his location last Tuesday. He wasn't at the hotel. He was at the crib on the north side. Ask him who opened the gate. India stared at the screen, her breath hitching in her throat. The north side crib. That was supposed to be a safe house, a ghost property that only a handful of people knew about. If Durk was there, and if Asian Doll was somehow involved, this wasn't just cheating. This was a security breach. This was a violation of the code that kept them all alive. The implication was terrifying. If the rival rapper knew about the Northside crib, who told him? Was there a mole in the camp, or was Durk so distracted by whatever was happening with Asian that he slipped up? India felt the walls closing in. The betrayal was mutating, growing heads like a hydra. It wasn't just about a woman anymore. It was about safety, about trust, about the sanctity of the family they had built. She realized then that she couldn't just stay silent. Silence was acceptance. Silence was weakness. And India Royale had never been weak. She walked into her closet, the rows of designer clothes and bags looking like costumes for a play she no longer wanted to star in. She grabbed a suitcase, throwing items in haphazardly. Stacks of cash, a Glock she kept in a hidden safe, and a specific hard drive containing receipts she had saved for a rainy day. She wasn't leaving him, not yet. She was going to find the truth even if she had to burn the whole city down to get it. She called her sister, the only person she could trust implicitly. "Get the car," India commanded, her voice void of emotion. "We're going to Chicago. I need to look him in the eye." Her sister didn't ask questions. She knew the tone. It was the tone of a woman who was done being the trophy and was ready to be the hunter. As they sped toward the private airfield, India checked Twitter one last time. The hashtag #IndiaSpeaks was trending at #1 worldwide, but she hadn't said a word yet. The fans were manifesting the drama, hungry for the bloodsport of celebrity heartbreak. They wanted a show, they wanted tears, they wanted a public meltdown, but India wasn't gonna give them a meltdown. She was gonna give them a war. The flight to Chicago was silent, the hum of the jet engine the only sound filling the cabin. India stared out the window at the clouds, her mind replaying every interaction, every late night, every excuse Durk had given her over the last month. The late studio sessions, the sudden trips out of town, the way he guarded his phone like it held the nuclear codes. It all seemed so cliche, so beneath him, but the streets don't care about cliches. The streets only care about opportunity. And if Asian Doll saw an opportunity to get back in the mix, to reclaim a spot she felt she deserved, she would take it. Asian was known for being unpredictable, for being a wild card. That's what made her dangerous. That's what made the rumors so believable. As the plane began its descent into the windy city, a notification popped up on India's phone. A live stream notification. It was Asian Doll. She was live. India's finger hovered over the screen. Did she want to see? Did she want to hear the lies, or worse, the truth? She tapped the notification. The video loaded, showing Asian Doll in the back of a Maybach, blunts in rotation, music blasting. She looked directly into the camera, a smirk playing on her lips. "Stop playing with my name," she shouted over the bass. "I'm the original. Ain't no replacement for the real. And if anybody got a problem, pull up." The chat was going wild, spamming India's name, spamming snake emojis. It was a direct challenge, a gauntlet thrown down in the digital arena. India closed the app, her eyes narrowing. "Pull up," she whispered to herself. "Be careful what you wish for." The car was waiting on the tarmac. The driver, a large man named Tiny, who had been with OTF since the beginning, opened the door, his face grim. He knew why she was here. He knew the rumors. "Where to, boss?" he asked, his voice low. India looked at him, her gaze piercing. "Take me to the north side," she said. "And Tiny, don't tell him I'm coming." The blacked out SUV tore through the streets of Chicago like a phantom, the city blurring into streaks of neon and regret as India Royale sat in the back, her heart pounding a rhythm of pure adrenaline. The Northside crib wasn't just a house, it was a fortress, a sanctuary buried deep in a quiet, affluent neighborhood where the neighbors drove Teslas and asked no questions. But tonight, that silence felt heavy, like the air before a tornado touches down. Tiny, the driver, gripped the steering wheel so hard his knuckles turned white, his eyes darting to the rearview mirror every few seconds as if expecting a tail. The streets were whispering that a war was brewing, and for the first time in a long time, India wasn't sure if she was the queen protected by the castle walls or the target sitting in the open. She unlocked her phone, the screen illuminating her face with the harsh blue light of Twitter. The timeline was in absolute shambles. A grainy video had just surfaced, allegedly taken 10 minutes ago, showing a convoy of matte black trucks speeding down Lakeshore Drive. The caption read, "Asian Doll pulling up to the north? It's getting spooky." India felt a cold chill snake down her spine. If Asian knew where the safe house was, the leak wasn't just a mole, it was someone with keys to the kingdom. As the SUV slowed down, approaching the heavy iron gates of the safe house, India's breath hitched. The lights in the main hallway were on. Durk never left the lights on, he moved in the shadows. A creature of habit and paranoia who knew that illumination made you a target. "Keep the engine running," India commanded, her voice barely a whisper but cutting through the tension like a knife. "If I'm not out in 10 minutes, burn the block down." Tiny nodded, his hand sliding down to the waistband of his jeans, the universal sign that he was ready for whatever smoke was about to clear. India stepped out of the car, the cool Chicago wind whipping her hair across her face. She punched the code into the keypad, a sequence of numbers that represented their daughter's birthday. For a split second, she hesitated, terrified that the light would flash red, confirming that she had been locked out of the life she helped build. Beep, beep, beep. Click. The gate groaned open. He hadn't changed it. Was it arrogance, or was it an invitation? She moved toward the front door, her heels clicking on the pavement, sounding like gunshots in the quiet night. The door was unlocked. That was the first red flag. Durk didn't leave doors unlocked. India pushed it open, the heavy oak swinging inward to reveal a scene that stopped her dead in her tracks. The house didn't smell like home. It smelled like expensive tequila and a perfume that was aggressively sweet. Gucci Flora, Asian Doll's signature scent. The scent hung in the air, a ghost of a presence that made India's stomach turn. She walked into the living room, her eyes scanning the space. On the coffee table, sitting next to an overflowing ashtray, was a custom diamond pendant. Not just any pendant, it was the queen of drill chain that Asian Doll had been flexing on Instagram for weeks. It was sitting there, gleaming under the chandelier, a shiny, diamond-encrusted declaration of war. So it's true, India whispered, the betrayal hitting her like a physical blow. You really let that girl in our house. Suddenly, a shadow detached itself from the corner of the room. It ain't what it looks like, India. Durk's voice was rough, tired, sounding like he hadn't slept in 3 days. He stepped into the light, wearing a hoodie pulled low, his eyes bloodshot. But he wasn't alone. Sitting on the couch, looking unbothered and scrolling through her phone, was a woman India recognized instantly, but it wasn't Asian Doll. It was her manager's assistant, a girl named Keisha, who had been playing both sides for months. Keisha looked up, her eyes wide with mock surprise. Oh, hey sis. We were just talking business. India felt a rage bubble up inside her that was so pure, so hot, it threatened to burn the house down. Business? India spat the word out like poison. Since when is business conducted with her chain on my table and her scent on my furniture? Where is she, Durk? Where is she hiding? Durk stepped forward, his hands up in a placating gesture. She ain't here, India. She left. She came to drop off the drive, the audio, the leaks. It was her trying to clear her name, not cross you. Lies, India screamed, losing her composure for the first time. She grabbed the diamond chain off the table and hurled it across the room. It smashed into a mirror, shattering the glass into 1,000 jagged pieces. You think I'm stupid? You think I don't see the timestamps? The internet knows she's pulling up. She's live right now, Durk. She's 5 minutes away. Durk's face hardened. She ain't coming here. I handled it. But before the words could fully leave his mouth, a deafening sound ripped through the night air outside. The screech of tires, the heavy bass of a drill beat rattling the windows, and the unmistakable sound of a megaphone. India, come outside. The voice was distorted, amplified, and dripping with malice. It was Asian Doll. She wasn't just pulling up, she was laying siege. The pull-up threat had gone from a tweet to a terrifying reality on the front lawn of their secret sanctuary. India ran to the window, peering through the blinds. Outside, 3 black SUVs were parked on the lawn, their headlights blindingly bright, illuminating the front of the house like a stage. A crowd had gathered, not fans, but goons. Men in ski masks standing on the hoods of cars, recording everything on their phones. And in the center of it all, standing on top of a G-Wagon with a megaphone in one hand and a bottle of Hennessy in the other, was Asian Doll. She looked like a general commanding an army of chaos. I told you I don't play, Asian screamed into the megaphone, her voice echoing through the neighborhood. He called me. He needed a real shooter, not a stylist. Tell the truth, Durk. Tell her about the contract. The contract? India spun around to face Durk, her eyes searching his face for an answer. What contract? She demanded, her voice trembling. What is she talking about? Durk looked trapped, his eyes darting between India and the window. It's a label play, India. They wanted a joint album, a King and Queen of Drill project. It was supposed to be strictly music. The label said it would do numbers. I didn't sign it. I swear on my kids I didn't sign it. You entertained it though, India yelled, the realization washing over her. You let them disrespect me for streams? For clout? You let this girl think she has a claim on you for a mixtape? Outside, the chanting started. The goons were chanting Asian Doll's name, a rhythmic, taunting beat that vibrated the floorboards. ASEAN. It was a nightmare. A viral moment happening in real time, and India was the punchline. But India Royale was nobody's punchline. She reached into her purse and pulled out the one thing she promised herself she wouldn't use tonight. Her own phone. She hit the go live button on Instagram. Instantly, 50,000 people joined. Then 100,000. The numbers climbed at a dizzying speed. Y'all want a show? India said to the camera, her face stoic, icy, beautiful in her fury. I'll give you a show. She walked to the front door, ignoring Durk's desperate pleas to stop. India, don't, it's a setup. They got cameras everywhere. Durk grabbed her arm, but she snatched it away with a strength he didn't know she possessed. Let go of me, she hissed. You made this mess. I'm going to clean it up. She threw the door open and stepped out onto the porch, the cold wind whipping her hair. The scene on the lawn froze. The chanting stopped. The music cut off. Asian Doll, still standing on top of the G-Wagon, lowered the megaphone, a smirk playing on her lips. The two women locked eyes. The wife and the alleged mistress, the influencer and the rapper, the calm and the storm. The silence was louder than the noise had ever been. The internet was holding its breath, millions of people watching through pixelated screens as the two queens of the Chicago scene faced off. "You got a lot of mouth for someone standing on a rental," India called out, her voice projecting clearly without a microphone. The crowd on the lawn gasped. "You came all this way to bark, or you gonna bite?" Asian doll laughed, a harsh, mocking sound. "I don't need to bite, sis. I already ate. Ask your man whose name is on the deed to that studio in Miami. Ask him who put up the bond money when his accounts were frozen." The accusation hung in the air like toxic smoke. The deed to the studio, bond money, these were secrets that, if true, meant Durk had been leaning on Asian doll financially while playing the provider role with India. It was a humiliation tactic of the highest order. India felt her knees go weak, but she didn't stumble. She looked back at the open door where Durk was standing in the shadows, looking like a man whose house of cards had just been blown over by a hurricane. "Is it true?" India asked, not to Asian, but to the darkness behind her. Durk stepped out onto the porch light illuminating the shame written all over his face. He didn't say a word. He didn't have to. The silence was the confession. Asian doll erupted in laughter again, jumping down from the car. "See? I told you, he ain't the king. He's a pawn, and I'm the one moving the pieces." She signaled to her crew. "Let's go. We got what we came for. The content is secured." As her crew started piling back into the trucks, revving their engines in victory, India felt something snap, not her heart, that was already broken. What snapped was her restraint. She wasn't going to let them drive away with her dignity. "Tiny!" India screamed. The massive bodyguard burst out of the SUV parked near the gate, a metal bat in his hand. "Block the gate! Nobody leaves!" The engines roared, tires screeching as Asian doll's driver tried to reverse. But Tiny had already slammed the iron gate shut and engaged the manual lock. They were trapped. The predators were now the prey. India walked down the steps of the porch, one slow, deliberate step at a time, her phone still broadcasting to 200,000 people. "You want to talk about deeds? You want to talk about money?" India's voice was low, dangerous. "Let's talk about the wiretap." The color drained from Asian doll's face. Even the goons in the ski masks went still. "What wiretap?" Asian shouted, her bravado faltering for the first time. "Stop capping!" India stopped 10 feet away from her, smiling a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "The one in the necklace you left on my table. The one my private investigator planted in your crew 3 weeks ago. You think you were leaking info on me? Baby, I've been recording your whole playbook since you landed at O'Hare." The chat on India's livestream was moving so fast it was a blur of fire emojis and skull faces. "Expose her!" the fan screamed. "Receipts!" India reached into her pocket and pulled out a small black remote. "I got the whole conversation from the car ride over here. Who you called? Who paid you to pull up? Which blog is on your payroll? You want me to play it for the world right now?" Asian doll looked at her crew, panic setting in. "Open the gate!" she screamed at Tiny. "Open the damn gate!" But Tiny didn't move. He stood like a statue, arms crossed, waiting for India's command. The power dynamic had shifted in a single heartbeat, but just as India raised her finger to press play on the remote, or whatever bluff she was running, a siren wailed in the distance. Not one siren, dozens. Blue and red lights began to flicker against the trees at the end of the block. The police were coming, and they weren't coming for a noise complaint. They were coming with a warrant. Durk ran down the stairs, grabbing India's shoulder. "India, we gotta go, now. That ain't regular police, that's the feds." The realization hit them all at once. The viral moment, the pull-up, the drama, it was all a distraction. While they were fighting on the lawn, the real enemy had been circling the perimeter. "It's a raid!" someone shouted from Asian's crew. Chaos erupted. Men were scrambling over the fences, tossing weapons into the bushes. Asian doll jumped back into her truck, screaming at her driver to ram the gate. India stood frozen in the center of the madness, the phone still in her hand, the live stream capturing the flashing lights of the armored SWAT vehicles tearing across the neighbor's lawn. Durk pulled her toward the back of the house, toward the secret exit, but she resisted. "No," she said, staring at the approaching lights. "I'm not running. I didn't do anything." Durk looked at her, his eyes wild with fear. "They ain't coming for you, India. They're coming for me. And if they find what's in the basement, I'm never coming home." What was in the basement? The question hung in the air for a split second before the first flashbang grenade exploded on the front lawn, turning the world white and leaving a high-pitched ringing in India's ears. Screams, glass breaking, the thud of boots on the pavement. The live stream cut to black as the phone fell from India's hand, the last image being the terrifying sight of a SWAT team breaching the very gate she had just locked. The screen went dark, but the audio kept rolling for 3 agonizing seconds. "Get on the ground, get on the ground," followed by a voice that sounded chillingly like Durk's, whispering one final message: "Don't trust Keisha." Then, silence. The world dissolved into a blinding flash of white light, followed by the concussive force of the flashbang grenade that rattled the bones in India Royale's chest. The high-pitched ringing in her ears was the sound of her carefully constructed reality shattering. The drama with Asian Doll, the taunts, the petty flexing, it all faded into background noise the moment she saw the silhouettes of the federal agents swarming the lawn. Durk didn't hesitate. He grabbed India, not gently, but with the desperate strength of a man facing the end of his freedom. "Tiny, back exit, now!" he roared over the chaos. Tiny, the hulking bodyguard, didn't need to be told twice. He was already a blur, securing the back gate while Durk dragged a stunned India toward the rear of the mansion. The front yard was an apocalypse. Asian Doll's crew, moments earlier basking in their viral victory, were now scrambling like roaches, some trying to climb the locked iron fence, others diving into the bushes, ditching phones and weapons. Asian Doll herself was screaming inside her SUV, realizing too late that her highly dramatic pull-up was the perfect, highly visible distraction the feds needed to execute their raid without drawing immediate local police scrutiny. The drama was a shield, the setup was real. As they burst into the kitchen, Durk yanked open a pantry door, revealing not food, but a reinforced steel emergency door. "Basement safe room is compromised, India," Durk gasped, shoving her through the opening. "We gotta go through the tunnel." The tunnel, another layer of paranoia, another secret India knew about but never thought she'd use. Durk pushed her down the narrow, dirt-floored passage. "Listen to me," he said, his voice raw, his breath hot on her neck. "The drive in your bag. Everything you need is on the encrypted folder." They're not looking for Asian Doll. They're looking for what she helped them set up. And Keisha. He paused, the sound of heavy boots upstairs echoing right above their heads. "Keisha, don't trust her. She's the inside man. She changed the codes. She told them about the studio she's working for." Before he could name the rival, a loud crack splintered the air as the feds breached the reinforced pantry door. Durk pushed India the final foot toward a small grated exit hatch hidden in the tall weeds outside. "Go, don't look back. If they catch me running, it's a wrap. If you get away, I got a chance." He slapped her on the rear, the final terrifying push of sacrifice. India scrambled out, gasping for breath, falling into the damp grass just as Durk sealed the hatch behind him from the inside. The last thing she saw was his face, a mixture of fear and strange protective relief. Then she heard the shouts from inside the house. "We got him! Suspect in custody!" India didn't cry. She didn't scream. She didn't even look back. The queen of the trenches went into survival mode. She crawled through the weeds until she reached the safety of the perimeter fence, where Tiny was already waiting, his face grim, the engine of the backup vehicle idling quietly on the hidden service road. "He's caught," India stated flatly, climbing into the passenger seat. "He said, 'Don't trust Keisha. Drive.'" Tiny accelerated, leaving the flashing red and blue lights of the raid behind them, the sound of the siren fading into the background hum of the city. As they sped away, India pulled out her phone. It was completely dead. But she had the black remote, the fake wiretap remote, clutched in her hand, a tangible symbol of the bluff that almost worked. Within the hour, the internet was a bonfire of speculation. The feed was back, but not from India's phone. It was cell phone footage from Asian Doll's entourage, recorded just before the feds breached the house. The video was shaky, but the audio was crystal clear. Durk's last words. The 3-second clip, "Don't trust Keisha," was ripped, looped, and uploaded everywhere. Keisha the Snake was trending globally within minutes. The internet detectives initially focused on Asian Doll and the alleged affair, whipped their attention 180 degrees. "It's giving setup," shouted one popular YouTuber. The drama was the smoke. Keisha was the fire. Fans were digging up Keisha's old tweets, her affiliations, Her sudden trips to LA where the rival rapper, the one who messaged India, was based. The narrative had flipped. Durk wasn't the cheater. He was the victim of an intricate, multi-layered conspiracy orchestrated by his own inner circle to neutralize him and destabilize OTF. Hiding out in a discreet luxury condo 20 miles outside the city, India and her sister were holed up in what felt less like a safe house and more like a tactical operations center. India finally plugged in the hard drive Durk had slipped into her bag. It was the key. Inside the encrypted folder, there wasn't just music or tax documents. There were communication logs, bank transfers, and a single damning audio file titled Project Kingfall. The file wasn't from a wiretap. It was an internal recording from Durk's secured phone, capturing a hushed, frantic conversation between Keisha, the manager's assistant, and an unidentifiable male voice with an Australian accent, allegedly a high-level label executive known for his ruthless tactics against competitors. India pressed play, and the condo filled with the sound of pure betrayal. "She has to be the distraction," Keisha's voice hissed on the recording. "Asian doll is perfect. She's loud, she's emotional, and the internet wants to believe she's capable of crossing India. While they're all fighting over a woman, we hit the north side and take him off the board." The Australian voice chuckled, cold and devoid of remorse. "And the payment?" Keisha demanded. "Half now, half when he's indicted. He keeps that evidence locked in the basement, the fool." India's hands shook as she realized the chilling truth. Asian doll was just a pawn, used for her volatility and her deep-seated desire for status. Her pull-up was likely planned and greenlit by Keisha and the label exec, designed to create a scene so explosive that the raid would be perfectly timed and justified by the ensuing chaos. Asian doll, the self-proclaimed queen of drill, had been manipulated into sacrificing her own reputation for a rival's gain. But the most devastating part of the recording wasn't Keisha's treachery. It was a secondary communication log found deep within the hard drive. It was a series of encrypted messages between Keisha and another user, simply identified as the architect. The messages were short, clinical, and contained details about Durk's security protocols that only two people in the entire world knew: Durk and his only blood relative, who was privy to the full security measures. India stared at the screen, her world tilting sideways. Keisha was the mole, but she was receiving her orders and the highly sensitive access codes from someone else, someone whose loyalty was never supposed to be questioned. The messages from the architect confirmed the location of the basement safe room, the precise timing of the raid, and a chilling final instruction: make sure the focus stays on the women, keep the family clean. India slumped into the chair, the weight of the revelation crushing her. The source wasn't the manager's assistant trying to earn a paycheck. The source was family, the mastermind who had sold Durk out to the feds, who had orchestrated the entire Asian doll drama, who had risked everything to seize control of the OTF empire, was someone Durk had trusted with his life, with his freedom, and with his deepest secrets. The betrayal was astronomical, Shakespearean in its scope. It wasn't about clout or women. It was about power, control, and the ultimate backstabbing of a blood relative. India looked at the screen, tears finally blurring her vision as the identity of the architect flashed clearly beneath the encrypted messages. It was a name that would shock the music industry to its core, a name that could bring down the entire foundation of the movement. Durk wasn't just facing an indictment, he was facing a family civil war that had been brewing in the shadows for years. India stood up, wiping the tears from her face. She wasn't going to post the fake wiretap audio. She wasn't going to simply expose Keisha. She was going to wait for the biggest moment. The moment that would cause the most cataclysmic damage to the real traitor. She had the receipts, the evidence, and the motive. The internet wanted the full story. They wanted the truth. They were about to get a painful lesson in what happens when loyalty is tested, and blood doesn't run thicker than ambition. She reached for the burner phone she'd been carrying, her fingers flying across the keypad, drafting a single cryptic social media post that would stop the world. "Y'all think the queen is hurt," she typed. "Y'all don't know I'm armed. I know who the architect is, and the streets are about to run red." The world was holding its breath. India Royale's cryptic final post: "Y'all think the queen is hurt. Y'all don't know I'm armed. I know who the architect is, and the streets are about to run red." sent social media into a frenzy of biblical proportions. The phrase, "the architect," went viral instantly, replacing every other trending topic. Fans, bloggers, and rival rappers knew this wasn't about a hotel room fling anymore. This was about the fall of an empire. Meanwhile, locked down in the condo, India was working with the precision of a surgeon. She knew she had one chance to drop the final receipts, and she couldn't waste the moment. She pre-scheduled the release of the Project Kingfall audio file and the encrypted logs to hit every major blog and platform simultaneously at 8 p.m. CST, ensuring maximum damage and zero chance of a takedown. But before the clock hit 8, her secured burner phone rang. The number was blocked, but India answered anyway, knowing exactly who was on the other end. "You made a mistake, India," a voice hissed, cold and trembling with controlled fury. It wasn't a rival rapper. It wasn't a label executive. It was Durk's own cousin, the person he had brought up in the game, his right-hand man and supposed blood oath, Lil V. "You don't understand what you're messing with. This is bigger than you, bigger than Durk. You should have stayed silent, taken the settlement, and lived a quiet life." "And let you sell your own blood out for a boardroom handshake?" India shot back, her voice like ice. "Durk trusted you with the keys to the safe room, V. He put you over damn near everyone." "Why? For what? Because he wouldn't let you sign that garbage clothing line deal you wanted?" The motive was sickeningly simple, yet devastatingly true. Envy. Lil V had allegedly always felt overshadowed, believing he was the true strategic mind of OTF. Yet Durk held the spotlight and the power. V's deep-seated resentment was the poison that allowed the label executives, the Australian Voice, to plant Keisha and orchestrate the entire raid, using Asian Doll as the highly distracting, high-volume smokescreen. V's voice cracked with raw emotion. "He never respected me. He never let me move independently. I built this shat with him. Now I'm taking what's mine." India kept him talking just long enough, silently recording the confession to add to the impending release. "It's already done, V. The receipts are dropping in 10 minutes. The world is about to hear the voice of the snake in the grass." She hung up before he could respond, leaving the traitor alone with the terrifying silence of his impending public execution. The clock struck 8 p.m. CST. The internet did not break, it atomized. The release wasn't just the Project Kingfall audio that detailed Keisha's cooperation with the Australian exec. India had also included the recorded call with Lil V, the receipts showing his transfers from a shell corporation tied to the rival label, and the highly sensitive communication logs naming him the architect. The full story, the full betrayal was laid bare for the world to see. Asian Doll was simply a tool, an unfortunate decoy who didn't even know she was being played by a member of Durk's own family. Durk wasn't just betrayed by a friend or a lover, he was betrayed by his blood. The reaction was cataclysmic. Hashtags about V's treachery dwarfed the previous trending topics. The streets were on fire. OTF members were reportedly turning on each other, unsure who to trust. The chaos was so immense that, according to unconfirmed rumors, even the rival rapper who had initially messaged India was shocked by the depth of the deception and immediately released a statement denying any knowledge of the familial betrayal, claiming he thought he was only participating in a marketing sabotage. The final nail was driven into the coffin when Durk's defense team, seeing the evidence and the public outcry, immediately filed an emergency motion demanding his release, using India's expose as definitive proof that the evidence in the basement was planted by a compromised insider acting on behalf of a rival organization seeking to destroy Durk's empire. The whole thing was a $50 million power grab, and India Royale, the woman everyone dismissed as the emotional girlfriend, was the one who saved the throne. The main body of the story ends here, with the betrayal exposed and the stage set for Durk's potential return. Man, look, we just saw the impossible happen. We watched a viral rumor about a messy hookup explode into a federal investigation and an ultimate family betrayal. India Royale wasn't just fighting for her relationship, she was fighting for Durk's freedom, and she just won the first round by exposing Lil V, the architect, as the venomous snake who almost brought the entire OTF kingdom to its knees. The fallout is just beginning. Lil V is reportedly in hiding, the label executives involved are facing lawsuits that could end their careers, and Asian Doll is left to pick up the pieces of a reputation that was used and abused in the ultimate setup. But here's the biggest question. With this evidence of a conspiracy, will the feds actually drop the charges? Will Durk walk free and return to a throne that was almost hijacked by his own blood? And what will be the fate of Lil V when the streets catch up to him? Loyalty was tested, and it failed the ultimate exam. Tell me what you think. Do you believe this dramatic raid was purely based on the planted evidence? Or do you think the feds had more on Durk than India's expose reveals? Was Asian Doll really just an innocent pawn, or did she know more than she let on? Smash that like button if you were absolutely shocked by the identity of the architect. Subscribe to the channel right now, turn on those notifications for part 5. Because we have sources working overtime to get an exclusive update on Durk's release. Drop your hottest theory in the comments below. Who else was involved in Project Kingfall? Let's keep this conversation going.